Hey guys, today I wanted to take a look at the Georgia Senate runoff races. We have quite a bit of new data concerning these races in the state of Georgia. These races are going to decide the makeup of the Senate. This is the current United States Senate map. You see that Arizona, for the first time since Harry Truman, has two Democratic senators. That was after Kirsten Sinema's 2018 win and Mark Kelly's 2020 win. And we see flips in the state of Colorado as well. And the state of Georgia right now, this is the final race, these two races, and they're going to decide the makeup. If Republicans win, it will be a 52-48 Senate. That would be a very, very favorable situation for Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. If Democrats can win one seat, they will have some trouble getting through Biden's agenda. However, I think that 51-49 wouldn't be the worst case scenario, as they would only need one moderate Republican to flip in favor of them. If Democrats win both of them, they win the Senate, and Joe Biden will be able to get almost all of his legislation out of the Senate and out of the House as well, which Democrats do control. So right now, the Senate, these two seats are very, very important. As of right now, no party has control of the Senate, as the Democrats control the vice presidency and will after January 20th, which is why Republicans at 50 seats do not have a majority or control of the Senate. So taking a look at the latest poll, before we do that, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. So taking a look at the latest Georgia Senate runoff polls, these polls, they are not the best for the Democrats. As you can see, David Perdue has taken the lead once again in the Georgia regular Senate election versus Jon Ossoff, and Kelly Loeffler has also taken the lead for the first time in weeks in the Senate special runoff election over Raphael Warnock. This is because the latest four polls for this race all show the Republicans leading: Perdue +1, +2, 3, and 1 after the 538 adjustment, and Loeffler +2 and +1 after these polls have come out. You see that Trafalgar Group's latest poll shows Perdue +3 and Loeffler +7. This is greatly down from a tie, just a poll conducted 6 days ago, where it was a tie in the regular race and Loeffler +3, and then just a couple of days before that, it was Ossoff +1 in the regular race. So according to Trafalgar Group, this race is moving more and more to the right. However, I think that the polls here, they really do not matter too much. I mean, they've shown how unreliable they can be. Although in the state of Georgia, the polls have been pretty accurate. On the presidential level, it was pretty much spot on, less than 1% off of what the actual results were. So polling in Georgia is not too bad, but I believe that this race is all about turnout. And this is because, we've seen that both candidates, the Democrats and the Republicans, they can both win this race. I mean, you saw Joe Biden win this race on the presidential level. It was almost, 50-50 basically. It's 49.5 to 49.26% for Donald Trump. So Democrats definitely do have the voters to win, and Republicans do as well. As you can see, David Perdue won a little bit less than 100,000 more votes than Jon Ossoff. And there's not going to be as high turnout. There's not going to be 4.9 million voters from Georgia. That is just not going to happen. But the turnout is going to be much, much higher than usual. You see that in these Georgia Senate runoff races in the past, you see that turnout has always gone down. I mean, just take a look at these last two Senate seats where there was a runoff in Georgia. In 1992, that was the election year of Bill Clinton, the turnout rate went down 44%. This is when Democrats did have a strong majority in the Senate. On the general election, Democrats won this race by 1.6%, but Democrats did not hit 50%. And then for the Republicans, it was plus 1.3% after the runoff. So that was a pretty big, switch, and that is only because the turnout went down so much, and Democrats tend to turn out less for runoff elections than Republicans. So there's a 2.9% shift to the right. In 2008, it got even worse. It went from Republicans plus 2.9 to Republicans plus 14.9. That's minus 43% in turnout, and the Republicans gained 12 points. So, historically, Democrats do much worse in runoff races. However, this race, I think, is quite a bit different, because this race is going to decide the makeup of the Senate. In those years, 2008, Democrats with Barack Obama, had a very, very strong control of the U.S. Senate. So this race did not matter too much. But in this race, these two races are going to literally decide what Joe Biden can get out of Congress and what he cannot. But the good news for Democrats, I think, is that the turnout is very, very high. And almost, typically at any time, whenever turnout is high, Democrats always win. In 2016, turnout was not that high for the two candidates, and you saw that Hillary Clinton lost the race, and her margin of victory really was not too spectacular. And Democrats, they can win the popular vote. There are more Democrats than there are Republicans. They have only lost the popular vote once since the year 1992, and that was George W. Bush beating John Kerry in 2004. So it will be, 16 years since the last time a Republican won the popular vote on the nationwide level. So Democrats, they always do better with the popular vote. There are just more Democrats, and in Georgia that is probably the case, except Republicans turn out for elections more. But in 2020, the turnout for Democrats in the state of Georgia was pretty spectacular. I mean, you got almost 5 million voters in the state of Georgia. That is pretty good. For the Democratic Party. And then, you see Stacey Abrams doing a lot of campaigning there. I don't think she was the best candidate for vice president, definitely. And, I'm not the biggest fan of her, but, when it comes to stuff like this in Georgia, I think she has done a wonderful job. She really has, been able to turn people out, and I think that she'll continue to do that for these runoff races she is, and turnout will likely increase as a direct result of her initiatives, and I think that she is, doing a big, positive for the Democratic Party, because I think that without her, such a narrow race with Brian Kemp for the governorship in 2018, I do not think that Democrats could have won the state of Georgia. So she has definitely made great contributions. As you can see, turnout over 1.1 million people have voted through Thursday. This is just Thursday. It is currently Saturday as of right now. So it is much over 1.1 million voters already. This is just early voting. A lot of people are going to be voting on January 5th for this race, and about 5 million people, 4.9 million, just very, very narrowly lower than that 5 million mark voted in the election on November 3rd. So Democrats definitely, they need to get that turnout pretty high if they want to win this race, because this race is going to be close no matter what. I do not see any sort of strong margin for David Perdue or Kelly Loeffler. This race is going to go down. It's going to be less than 2%. I don't see it being anything more than that. So at least 150,000 voted early each day, last week, and, votes won't be counted until 7 p.m. on January 5th. But taking a look at party preference, this is out of those who participated in June's primary election for the for the party primaries. It can tell that 59% of runoff voters who voted so far voted in the Democratic Party's their primaries. So that is, pretty good for the Democrats, and 39 for the Republicans. And although definitely I don't think that they're winning by 20%, but this does show that, Democrats do have more support according to the early voting results, and that is, reasonable considering the trends that we saw in the 2020 election. And, this is just basically 59 to 39 based off of who voted in the primaries. And, of course, Democrats had a much more contentious primary, so more of them voted in that. But it definitely doesn't show that, it's 59-39 right now. But it's pretty positive information for the Democratic Party. And in addition to that, we've also seen 76,000 new voters registered, and these are first-time registrants, and many of them have just turned 18 years old or became Georgian residents. And typically, the younger voters, 18-year-old voters, they wanted to register, they know that this race matters in the state of Georgia, and those voters, they are typically Democratic voters. The more, the younger you are, the more progressive you tend to be, and those new people who are coming into the state of Georgia, they are Democrats. Most of them, they are Democrats. That's why this state is moving to the left, because this state is experiencing a population increase and demographic change as a result of that. And the people who are coming into Georgia, the Atlanta area, they are Democrats. So That is why this is favorable for the Democratic Party here. And then black voters and voters over 65 are showing up in large numbers. This is something you wouldn't typically expect that much, but older voters, they do turn out more. Black voters not as much, but you're seeing that in this race they are turning out for, most likely the Democrats, because Trump won 11% of the black vote, which was, even good for a Republican. So the more of these voters that are showing up, the better it is for the Democratic Party. And that older voters do tend to back Republicans, but black older voters, they do not, back Republicans, nearly as much. And so, yeah, so basically this race right now, it is definitely not, a race that's just called for the Republicans or for the Democrats. Turnout is very, very high, and that will make, speculating what's going to occur in this race pretty difficult, because is it just Democrats turning out a lot? Is it just Republicans, or is it both parties? But definitely right now, Democrats have a lot more enthusiasm going into this race. They were able to flip the state of Georgia on the presidential level, and the Republicans, they're not happy about Trump losing this race, and a lot of them are not going to vote as a result of that, because they want their state overturned for Donald Trump on the presidential level. And you saw those boycotts. Republicans, many of them, they're not going to vote, although Trump has urged them to vote. They're probably not going to vote unless Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue does something about it, I guess, which they're not, because there's nothing that those two senators can do about Trump's loss here in the state of Georgia. And if you take a look at the ads they're running, if you search up Georgia runoffs, this is the first thing that's going to pop up, and this is just an ad for Loeffler and Perdue. And they're being really negative about this. They're just getting really conspiracy related. And I guess those some Republicans, they're going to support this. But if we were to take a look at Kelly Loeffler's website, you see that she is really trying to win this race, I guess, more by supporting Donald Trump than David Perdue. Although both of them, they didn't say that Joe Biden won the election, but Kelly Loeffler has had a much more Trump, supporting stance than David Perdue. And on her website, she's selling this kind of stuff right there, and that's to show, she does support Donald Trump, because the main reason she's going to lose this race is if, unhappy Republicans are not going to back her because they think that she is not doing enough. So she is really trying to, get her name to be, related to Donald Trump. She really wants to, I guess, she wants to get those voters who want Donald Trump to be president still. She wants to get those kind of voters who probably wouldn't vote if, they accept, if Kelly Loeffler accepted that Trump had lost this election. So she's not saying that Trump lost this election just because she wants to win her race, and she's been dodging all sorts of questions about that. But I think she knows that, Trump definitely lost this race. So really, she's just using this tactic to try to get those Republicans out. But I think that the turnout for Republicans is still probably going to be lower than if Trump had actually won the state of Georgia, which is a positive for Democrats. And Democrats, they are turning out for this race much higher than expected. The turnout numbers are really very high. Taking a look at the betting odds, it's pretty much the same thing. Not the greatest for the Democrats, but not too bad. Really not too many shifts. It's still around 60, the mid-60s for the Republicans and mid-30s for the Democrats. So that's what the betting odds are at right now for these two races. And the latest polling numbers, you see increases for David Perdue as well as Kelly Loeffler, but this race is just so close right now. So it's really just all about that turnout. Right now the turnout is pretty favorable for the Democratic Party, I think. So this race is going to be close. You saw that in the regular election, it was a pretty close race. Special election a little bit different, but Raphael Warnock is expected to do better than Jon Ossoff. I'd be pretty surprised if Jon Ossoff actually did better than Raphael Warnock on January 5th. So this race is just 2 weeks away, and it is going to decide the outcome. A pretty exciting race, and I think that Democrats, they're going to do pretty well here. Nonetheless, I think that they are going to do better than the numbers that they experienced on election night, at least on the Senate level. Whether or not they can win the state of Georgia like Joe Biden did, we'll see. But I think that it's not that bad for the Democrats, taking a look at the polls. It's not too favorable for them. But still, you gotta remember that this is still a very, very close race. And these Republicans are leading by very, very small margins. So I would like to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. The link to which is at the very top of the description below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see all of you guys in the next video.